I started these conversations to discuss leadership, mentorship, growth, and so much more from voices you may not have heard from before. I hope the conversations inspire you, motivate you, and give you something to think about. This Leadership in Color from myself, Shezikar, supported and powered by MIFA. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Leadership in Color. Really pleased to welcome Ashley Chang to the call. The reality is that Ashley and I haven't had a chance to catch up with each other because she lives not that close to where I am. She's joining me early hours in the morning. I don't know what coffee number you're on. Was it 8 a.m. over there?
It's 8 a.m. Just coffee number one so far, but I think it'll get us through this call.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much. I think by 8, to be frank, I'm usually on coffee number 2 or 3, with there being a busy household on my side. So, you've got props from my side for being able to just stick to coffee number 1. But I'm sure you're enjoying that first coffee of the day. Anyway, actually, I'm not very good at introducing people, to be completely honest. What I would say is that I found you through LinkedIn. There was a post. I can't remember what the post was, but it was super exciting and interesting, and that's how we connected. So as opposed to me doing a really bad introduction of yourself and Sundays, how about I hand over to you for you to introduce yourself a little bit better than what I would?
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm Ashley Chang. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Sundays. Sundays is an executive assistant service for working parents. Our goal is to help more parents have meaningful careers and families, and especially to get more moms into leadership positions. They can kind of reshape how we think about the balance of family and work. And I'm sure we're going to get more into my background before Sundays, but that's the quick overview of what we do today.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think it's probably worth jumping into Sundays, actually, to be fair. I'm quite keen to understand what made you develop Sundays and what it actually looks like as a platform or a reality.
Yeah. Okay, so the impetus for starting Sundays for me starts with my own mom. So I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the US. She was a software engineer in the Bay Area in the 80s, which was really a busy time. And she had a super promising early trajectory to her career. She was managing people quickly. And then when she started having kids, she felt like she had to choose between family and work. And she made the decision to stay home with us, which I'm super grateful for. But then about 20 years later, I entered the same exact tech industry, and all of the engineering teams and leadership teams and boardrooms are made up of mostly men with very few women and even fewer moms. And then as I've gotten older, I've seen even the few women who are there start to drop out and feel like they have to face that same choice. And I think this is just a really crazy situation. If you think of all of the ways that technology has evolved since the 80s, basically every single piece of technology you use was invented since then. But the culture and the policies we have around work really haven't changed all that much. And so that's really my why for wanting to start Sunday is we are just a little bit over a year old now. And when I started Sundays, I knew I wanted to solve this problem, but I didn't know how. So I started by interviewing as many parents as I could. I talked to about 300 parents in the first few months of starting. And my background, which I think we'll get into more, is in product management. And so I was mostly looking for a product I could build. But the more people I talked to, the more I realized that a product really wouldn't be impactful enough. To make a big impact for the parents I was talking to. And so what we do today is we run a tech-enabled service. It's an executive assistant service where we have a team of executive assistants. We are US based right now. So our team is all based in the US and they are mostly other parents. And so they really understand what's going on for parents who are trying to balance family and work. And they start to act as a right hand person and also like a second brain to think about like what are all the things that are going on for your family, what needs to happen in order to help you reach your goals. And then they will actually tackle and execute on a lot of that family admin for the people that we work with. So we have a very close relationship based service that we offer our clients. And then behind them, we also are building some technology where we track what we work on for families. And that's really cool because as a parent, a lot of times you're facing things for the very first time, like preschool applications or finding a nanny or figuring out soccer or camps. But when we look at all the parents we help, we really see these things repeated. And so we can get much more efficient and help families start from like a much more educated starting point.
That's super interesting. I was expecting you to say that the same thing had happened to you. In all honesty, I was expecting you to say my mom went through this journey and then I felt something similar. So what's the product actually look like? If I was an organization that wanted to work with Sundays, what sort of organization would I be? Or what's your ideal or target organization? And what would be my use of Sundays?
Yeah, so we have a product, but it's definitely a service at this point. And we work directly with families and also with organizations. So and basically the organization is just kind of like a ramped up version of what we do for families. So um when families work with us, I have a conversation with every person who works with us today. And so I get to know them. I talk about like what they're going through with their family, and then we match them with an executive assistant on our team. And they we have a pretty structured onboarding process where we like go really in depth about getting to know your family and what your goals are. And then on a regular basis, we'll continue working with you. So we basically talk to our clients mostly on a daily basis through whatever, and we're really client focused. So whatever communication works for you. So we'll use like text or Slack or WhatsApp make it really easy for you to communicate with us. And then on our side, we will have like a list of projects that have come up for you, as well as suggesting projects that we know kind of fit your family and what's going on for you at that time. And then we'll just work through those together. So anything that our team takes on, we try to have full ownership of. So if we're doing summer camp planning, we will find all of the summer camps that are like in your area, and then we'll bring it to you to like make a decision. Um, and then we'll actually book those summer camps. We'll plan out all the logistics. So you know all the tough things around like this week we're going here and then next week it's this drop off and these are the hours and things like that. So we really try to take ownership over the full life cycle of these uh, projects that we're working on. And so yeah, what it looks like from a like plan perspective is families buy a block of hours from us at the beginning of the month, typically like 5 to 10 hours. And then we track the time we spend with families to the minute. It's pretty efficient, I think. Um, and and then basically get that time back for parents. So instead of spending like that 10 hours, and we think our 10 hours is a little bit more efficient than yours because we know a lot more about summer camps and things like that than you do, where you'll be starting from scratch. So you get, I don't know, 15, 20 hours back every month that you would be spending typically on weekends doing these tasks. And then when we work with families, we basically do that in bulk. So they will, or sorry, with organizations, we'll do that in bulk. So they'll buy kind of a block of hours for different employees, and then we'll work with them. And we also try to demonstrate the impact that we're having. So we'll do some surveys before we get started of um, how much time employees are spending at work when doing things for home and things like that. And then surveys that to kind of prove out to them that we're making an impact. And typically we'll do like a pilot with a few of their high trajectory parents and then expand to the organization after that.
I am assuming that is quite a premium service.
So the pricing is 40 US dollars an hour, which it depends on where you are in the US. It's pretty standard kind of nanny rates for the Bay Area where I am. And then we do charge you only by the minute, or we track time by the minute. So um, unlike where you would typically have to pay for at least like 1 hour block from someone, for us, we understand that a lot of these things require kind of like touch points and bouncing around, which makes them really mentally stressful for parents to manage during work. So if you're trying to make a doctor's appointment for your son and then you call them and they don't answer and they call you back in 15, 20 minutes, like those are wasted minutes for you. But because we have other clients that are in similar situations, we can kind of mush these type of tasks together and accomplish them more efficiently.
Did you find that your studying genetics brought something different to the conversation with your fellow product managers or with your colleagues within the organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think that genetics is it's it's very similar. In some ways, it's very similar uh to engineering where you can like break it down to these really small components. Like if you think about a complex piece of software that you're building, it's made up of like these these small components that act in different ways, whether that's um like I can't remember the words right now, but when you like need a timer that will like track every day and like things like this. So like and so I felt like my experience of like breaking down more complex things in humans to like what are the genes that lead to them was really, really helpful when I moved into like software and engineering in terms of like breaking things down, kind of understanding. I like to go really deep in the projects I work on. So understanding like the roots of um, what makes up this software, like what makes it either like hard to build or easy to build, and where can we make just like prioritization decisions about what we want to invest in or not.
So when you told your parents that you were going to study genetics, I imagine they were pretty proud of that, right? I mean, that's not a it's not an easy subject to tackle. So you must have done well at school previous to college, or as we call it, university. So they must have been pretty proud of you working in genetics. What happened? I'm making an assumption then. Let me know if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No, okay. So I think they were happy about it. My family, I come from a family of all engineers. So
Right.
I'm like the only non-engineer in my family, technically, even though I work in a lot of engineering. But at this point, my dad studied mechanical engineering, my mom studied computer science, my two sisters both did like hard engineering. So genetics is like softer than their than what they studied in some ways. Um, but yeah, they were, and also my dad, he makes medical devices, and he has started a bunch of his own companies. So at a really early stage, I was exposed to kind of it being okay to take risks and to like jump like so he would start a new company. Sometimes it would do well, sometimes it wouldn't do well. And then there were sometimes like periods where he was doing like consulting or more flexible work. Um, and so I think I was exposed to the idea of this like flexibility and different types of work you could do early, and that's really valuable. So they didn't really question me when I said I was going to like just try to jump into a new area. I didn't really know like what I was doing for a long time, um, but I think I kind of was able to like get this job relatively quickly where I was at least like making my own income. And yeah, so that it's that okay with them.
Okay, so they're a family of engineers. You say you want to do genetics. They're probably thinking, well, that's a little bit left field. It's not what we had planned for you, but great. You know, we've got faith in you. Go for it. Take the gamble. And then you moved over to more their realm, uh, closer to their area. Was there?
Yeah.
How do they feel about that? It feels like they would be quite supportive of it.
Yeah, they've been very supportive. So, um, I mean, my dad is very much in like like physical engineering, and so I'm not sure he actually knows what like people are doing in software engineering. My mom, though, on the computer science side, like definitely understood what I was doing and was excited about it. We actually, as I was getting into it, we actually like built a few different like apps together where we built like a travel app and like a recipe saving app together. And so that was fun where it was helping me to like learn more things about how things could be built. And um, I was at this really small company called ReadMe doing, at the time it was really small, and got to move into product there, but hadn't been like really exposed to bigger engineering teams. And so my next role, I went to a company called Collective Health, and this was my first true like product management role. And I ended up owning their mobile team. So the fact that I had worked on these apps just like with my mom on the side ended up being really helpful because I already had, while like a lot of the bigger company dynamics were new, I already had some understanding of like how do you build apps? What are the limitations? How to get into the app store and things like that.
And that's super cool because I personally don't know if I could work with my mom on a project. Right now, my mom to me is maybe one of the best business people I know. She's not run anything as extensive as your father, but or maybe both your parents, but I do sort of feel like she's got a business brain, you know.
Hmm.
But that said, we'd spoken about working together on businesses, and it's never happened. But I don't know what the reality of that would look like. But it sounds like on your end, your relationship with your parents is pretty solid, to the point that you're actually working on these projects together.
Yeah, I mean, we worked on these projects. I wouldn't say either of them was like a real business. I think at that point, I was like, and this is interesting because I it's a big thing that I've learned since starting Sundays is like all of the non-engineering and product side of actually starting a business. So I would say for those things that I've worked on with my mom, um, we did like we built the product and it's pretty it like works for what we wanted it to do, but it wasn't as considerate of like how are we going to sell this, how are we going to do get distribution, how are we yeah what does marketing look like, so I wouldn't say it's like it ever became a true business in the sense that what I'm doing now is a business, but we were able to work really well together. I think that yeah we had kind of similar or like we had complementary skill sets and we're able to like figure out how to build that, which has been really interesting. I'm not sure that I would be able to work as well with like other people in my family. And I always am so impressed when people like start businesses with their siblings and things like that, because I think there are so many dynamics that I'm like impressed that they're able to channel into a business.
Yeah, I mean, what happens if you're working together in the week, things don't go that well, and then you've got Sunday lunch? I mean, that's got to be a
Yeah.
bit awkward, right?
Hmm.
Right.
And also, I also a little bit risky. I think like I love my family so much, I wouldn't want something business related to get in the way of that.
Yeah, I think risk is the right word. You're right. I mean, why mix business and family? But as you say, I really commend those people that are able to do it. There are lots of family run businesses that we can think of in the industry that are just thriving, and you know they're managing to do it. So clearly there is the ability to do it. But like you say, I'm not sure that I don't know how easy or
Yeah.
difficult that would be for me. So your parents sound super supportive. That they've given you time. They've given you that that motivation to go for what it is that you want. They've exposed you to a lot, but they come from quite different cultural backgrounds. Or I mean, you say you were third generation, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think that yes, I was third generation. My dad's um I just was reading a lot more about I feel like my like Chinese heritage I didn't really get like well, I think from both sides actually. They moved to the US and I think there was a lot of pressure to like assimilate to US
Mm.
culture versus maintaining these separate cultures. So, um in that way I think that they were raised like somewhat similar, but there's definitely different pieces that I've been able to pick up from their different heritages. Um but also a lot that like that was lost that I wish I was able to maintain more. Like I don't speak Italian or Chinese, and I wish that that had been passed down. But I know that like for my grandparents, like they felt like they had to like hide the fact that they were from these other cultures and like only speak English, and they didn't want their kids to also feel that pressure of like kind of feeling like an outsider. So they tried to like make them fit in a little bit more. And yeah, so I wouldn't say that there were like necessarily competing cultures in my home, where I feel like more of it was like this kind of trying to assimilate in some way. But then I mean, I always felt a little bit different than like the people around me. Like when I think of my high school lunch, they were like all of the white kids and all the Asian kids, and like they sat in all these different places, and I was always like, oh, where do I go? Um, and in some ways that was definitely hard as a kid, but also um, now I think it was a useful lesson because it made me more comfortable being different and like doing things on my own.
So talk to me a little bit about university then. So you sort of went back, you changed things up, but what was the dynamic like at university? Did you find that um you fit in any particular groups there? Did you find that you learned something in particular there that was outside of the education? What else did you pick up at
Yeah.
university or college?
I mean, so I study genetics and I don't work in genetics at all. So I think everything that all of the value that I got from college came from not the classes for them, or it didn't come from the actual like science of what I was learning in the classes. I think the most powerful thing I learned in college was like how to teach myself to learn things. And this, I mean, it came from both social things as well as like the classes I was taking. Like I was taking organic chemistry, which is a really hard class. And I think in high school I was also taking hard classes, but the pressure wasn't as as high on me to like teach myself. Whereas in college it was like, okay, you need to go teach yourself how to do this. And and so I learned how to teach myself things, um and that has been the most valuable skill for my whole career, where I've been able to move into situations where I didn't know anything and then figure out a format for myself, so or figure out how to teach myself and generally to ramp up pretty quickly, which has been really useful. So like I taught myself um I taught myself like how to do user research and how to do and like the basics of computer science and how to do product management um and yeah, being able to move around and teach yourself in situations that are uncomfortable is super valuable. Um, I would say like that's the reason to go to college and in my perspective. From a social from a social side, I I went to college. I joined this like honors program that I like was at first not I was like, oh, it might be too nerdy and I won't like fit in with those people. And then it turns out that I am a nerd. And so those were my people. And at when you first get to college, I think you're kind of looking at different groups that might you might fit in with. So I met my roommate who was in the honors program, so I ended up living on like an honors floor. But then at the same time, I was like testing out other social circles. So, like I joined in the U.S. We have sororities. I joined a sorority for 1 year, um, and I think I was testing out like where do I feel comfortable and where does it feel like I'm like stretching to be someone else that like isn't me. And I'm a big people pleaser, so it is I definitely can put myself in situations where I'm like, oh, I'll just be one of these people for like the hours that I'm with them, and then I'll like go back to being myself. Um, but I ended up feeling like I just really, really fit in with these like honors program students, and those people ended up being like they're still some of my best friends today. Um, and yeah, it was just kind of the I applied as I went to a pretty big school. I went to University of California, Davis. So there's like 20,000, 25,000 students. And as I was going to that school, one of my teachers was like, well, everyone should just apply for the honors program at schools they're going to. Even like there's no downside basically. And then if you get in, you often get prioritization. So like we got priority access to classes and things like that where we could register first. So I applied and then just like yeah, just by luck of that ended up meeting like so many of my best friends who have shaped me since then.
And what would you say about your friends then, your best friends? So you've got this similarity in terms of you were on the honors program and living quite close to each other as well. But are they all also sort of founders? Are they all working in engineering? Do they do something similar?
No. Well, okay, so I think that that's really interesting. In now that I've lived in San Francisco for like 10 years, San Francisco is this bubble of people who all work in tech. And if you walk around the streets of San Francisco, like any conversation could be like interchangeable a lot of times because people are like, oh, my engineering team is doing this. And it's like, yeah, it's very insular. But my friends from college are not like that. They do very different things. Like one person's a nurse, one person's a lawyer, one person works in like nonprofits and advocacy work. And yeah, so ended up in very different. One person is like getting a PhD in something. So like, yeah, ended up in very different spheres of work. And if you didn't notice from the way I said San Francisco, it's a bubble. Like I definitely get tired of the San Francisco like only talking about tech all the time. And so I appreciate having these different perspectives and this bigger world view that comes from those friends too.
So it's interesting that you say that, because what I'm noticing is a little bit of a theme, and that theme is an appreciation of being different, right? I don't know if that resonates with you, but it feels like you quite like the fact that you're a little bit different. Even with work, most of your client, well, all your clients are parents, but you're not. But there seems to be an appreciation of that difference, and an understanding of people from different perspectives, and that desire and want to constantly have that different perspective and that fresh perspective. Does that resonate with you, or am I going off on the wrong path there?
Yeah, no, I think that resonates as something that I appreciate. I also I think one of my, I don't know if values is the right word, but I really appreciate when people um when people don't just like follow the status quo to follow the status quo, like when people are thoughtful about like what they want to achieve and what they want to do to get there. So and like what things are really meaningful to them versus just like doing something that's comfortable because it's what everyone's doing. So um yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that the only way to kind of move there is to have these different and diverse perspectives. Because if you're only hearing like one definition of success from people, then that's all you have. And so you have to kind of absorb that.
And do you look to find people like that when you're hiring for your teams? Because how many of you are there at Sundays?
We have 13 people now.
Okay.
And yes, I do try to have diverse perspectives on there too. And um, it's super interesting. Like we have So the people we hire at Sundays, they're all based in the US right now. They are mostly other parents, or mostly parents, and they come from like very different backgrounds. So we have people who have traditional backgrounds as executive assistants. We also have people who have like been in different industries, and I really love bringing them together. So we have someone who was in education, we have some people who have been in hospitality, um, and then some people who have been in like different areas of a more corporate world, like in or of someone who is in real estate and then someone who is like in like a healthcare setting. And so I think I love, yeah, maybe you're getting to the root of how I think about things, but I love having this diverse set of opinions coming together to try to figure out like how can we really do things best. Um, and and yeah, I think that that leads to a stronger outcome. And then also for each individual person on our team, they have other people they can like bounce bounce things off of or ask questions to, where like no one can know the whole world. And so it's really great to have people who have different scopes and different experiences that you can pull in.
But that's an appreciation of their working background. Do you take into account some sort of, there's going to be a personality trait or something that you're looking for in your team, right? Something that allows them to be open to these fresh perspectives, and and that's difficult to recruit for.
Yeah, I mean, I do all of our recruiting right now, so I'm not sure that it's and I yeah, it is structured in some sense like where but it's not necessarily the most perfect science. But definitely look for people who are um well, I guess like the things that I normally say look for, like we look for really good communicators, like people who can explain really well what their background was. Look for people who are really proactive, so they're thoughtful about even in our conversations and in like the few we have like an assignment we ask them to do, like I can get a sense for like we ask them to do one thing and they're like, okay, but I'm thinking about all these things surrounding that too and how I would work on those. And then also people who really take ownership over the work that they do. So making sure that like it's not just like one word answer. It's like, okay, I got this like as completely done as I could. So those are the three things that I look for. And then I just also spend a lot of time talking to them before being ready to bring them on. Um, other background, I mean, we also try to have like diversity in the upbringings and types of people that we're bringing on to the team too. And we also have we're fully remote across the US. So we have people who are all in all different areas of the country. Um, and that also, and we offer them like remote flexible work. So a lot of people work for us part-time, where they can still have time to like go pick up their kids and stuff like that. And so we get access to really awesome people who it's hard to bring into a more traditional corporate role because it doesn't fit with like their other priorities and things like that.
I'm going to ask you a really difficult question. You don't have to answer it, but well, it's not a difficult question. It's maybe a bit of an awkward question. But do you ever have customers that ask for individuals from a particular diaspora or ethnicity? And the reason why I ask that is because so my family's South Asian, and if I had somebody working with me that was also South Asian, they would just the communication would be really easy, right? Like they would just
Hmm.
get it. It's a little bit like you say, well, we work in the Bay Area, or we work in San Francisco, or we're in New York, or wherever wherever they are. If you're in the city or the state, then you get the local culture, and you know what's around you, a lot more easily.
Yeah.
But there is something about the communication style between cultures that perhaps some people might ask for, and that's a difficult thing to ask for as well.
Yeah, we haven't had people ask for people from specific cultures yet, but people are definitely aware and looking for people who feel like a really good personality fit for them. So we have people, a lot of times people ask for like people who are familiar with New York City or something like that,
Mm.
or um, people who are parents, or people, yeah, what else do they, or like we usually give you as the client a choice between a few people on our team. So we'll share profiles of people um yeah, you can kind of choose you can choose who feels like the best fit, and we'll also even like set up a meeting with you and them so you can talk to them first and make sure. Um we have had, I guess, one thing we have had people ask for is like sometimes they are trying to choose more like faith-based learning or camps or activities. And so they want someone who, if they don't come from the same faith, at least is like understanding and open to learning that. So we've had that choice because we do help a lot with like what are these decisions you're making around raising your family, and those are really important decisions. So we've had that. One thing I think is really interesting is we have our team is mostly women, but we have a dad who we brought on recently he's amazing. But I noticed that like a lot more of our clients, when given the choice, were like choosing women to be their executive assistant. And I was like, why is this like I think like I don't know, I think there's still a lot of like bias in like who we expect to be doing this type of work, which I think is kind of interesting.
That was actually going to be my next question, which was, yeah. So thank you for sharing. Hopefully your dad gets picked a little bit more, because in honesty, I imagine that dads are just as good as mums
Yeah.
at supporting a family, right? But you're right. It's just cultural norms, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like I was like maybe his bio is like a little slanted differently than like the other ones or something. So, but it's yeah, I don't know. I think there's still like something about what's your expectation of like the type of person who you think will be like good at this work or expect to be doing this work.
Yeah, no, understood. All right, so if we change gears ever so slightly, maybe it'd be quite good to know what you have picked up on, and what advice you would give yourself at the start of your career. So, like, what would you say to yourself at the start of your career, as the best bit of advice that you've picked up so far?
Best advice I've picked up so far. I think, okay, teach yourself how to learn things. And then I think I have, um, I like to be in situations where I'm learning a lot. So I have kind of made big jumps either between companies or within companies in roles where I'm willing to put myself in situations that are like very uncomfortable and trust myself to be able to learn them. And that has has really accelerated my career the most, is like be being willing to be in roles that you don't know how to do and then figure out how to do them. Um, and then, yeah, I also think I have a bunch of advice. Another piece of advice that I would look for as you get a little bit more senior is to, um, and if you can have a choice, I think like choosing your manager is like the number one person who's going to impact your career. So I would weigh that who your manager is going to be and having a good conversation or having good connection with them more highly than like almost anything else about the company because you need them to be on your side in order to grow quickly. And at my last company, I actually did like a reverse interview of my manager where I passed the interview and then I talked to her for like an hour and a half where I was like asking her a bunch of questions about how she thought about success and thought about growing people on her team. And it's hard to do that when you're in very early stages of your career, but as you start to get more mature, more senior, and you're looking for like high growth opportunities, your manager is going to be probably the number one person deciding if you get those opportunities. So spending the time to find a good one is really helpful.
I think it's two really, really good bits of advice. I think going and becoming a self-starter and ensuring that you understand how to learn and also having that drive to learn and teach yourself, I think is absolutely key. But your manager, yeah, great advice because the reality is that in an organization, exactly as you say, it's probably one of the most important relationships you're going to have. So investing in that relationship is super important for your own career development, and also just to get a little bit of sanity, right? Like if you've got a good relationship with your manager, you can check in with them and have a more transparent conversation. If you don't have a good relationship, then it can be quite tough.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So just to wrap things up, then talk to me a little bit about what's keeping you up at night at the moment. What's going on at Sundays?
I'm really happy to say that not I don't have as many things keeping me up at the moment as I did like a year ago. I think the hardest part of starting a company for me was like this existential crisis period of like what do I work on? Now we're in this more there are tons of problems to solve, but they're like concrete problems. And so we get to like move through those problems, which I love. Um, what we're working on right now is we've been growing the team really quickly the last few months. I've been figuring out like I've been thinking about everything we do as like a machine and how do we build these like mini machines inside of what we do to make things repeatable. And so a lot of what I've been doing is like how do we structure those things internally. And then I'm also trying to learn marketing and sales is an area I had no experience in before starting. So I've put myself in that uncomfortable situation of needing to learn it from scratch. And so far, you found me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been like a really successful channel for us. But we want to continue expanding beyond that. And so um, getting ready to figure out to invest in other areas and experiment and figure out what's worth our effort is another big area that I've been thinking about.
That makes sense. And I would say that if you need help with sales and marketing as well, I think LinkedIn's a good place to start. To be fair, there are lots of experts out there to reach out to, and it's funny, right? Like I found with getting guests for the podcast, just reaching out to individuals and saying, "Hey, look, are you open to a conversation?" Most individuals are open to supporting even someone they've never spoken to before, either just as an open conversation or maybe even for a short bit of mentorship as well. And
Yeah,
mentorship is a big thing.
yeah, I would say that's my newest advice for everyone is to try to be more visible. I think it's been really powerful for me with connecting with amazing people like you and also like clients for our business is just like being being out there and existing in the world and letting people know what you're doing. It really brings a lot of amazing people to you. And LinkedIn especially is great because probably like you're like one connection away or one message away from connecting with people you never thought you would get the chance to talk to. So um it's yeah, it's basically a warm intro just from being on LinkedIn, which is nice.
Yeah, totally agree with that. So actually, our closing tradition on the podcast is you name the episode. So based on the conversation today, I know it's a lot of pressure, but it's on you to name the episode.
Can you give me a couple examples of names that you've had before? I'm stalling.
No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to inspire with us. We can go back over the conversation, right? So there was that thread on sort of being on the outside looking in and having that appreciation of different perspectives. I thought the advice that you gave about building a relationship with your manager, I think, was also quite important. It seems to be something there about building those connections and
Yeah.
and having that link with individuals that are perhaps not the same as yourself. I'm helping you stall now.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe we can say, maybe we can call it like making being different a superpower.
I noticed that whenever I ask that question, firstly, I see the alarm bells ring in the person's eyes, right? Like that everyone looks really, really worried about giving a title, but everyone comes up with great titles that are just super um clickbaity, which is exactly what I want, right? They got fantastic hooks. So I just want to say thank you for that title, and also thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for waking up a little bit early and sharing your first cup of coffee with us on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been so great to get to meet you. And I'm glad that LinkedIn brought us together. Looking forward to staying in touch.
I should contact LinkedIn and ask them if they want to sponsor this episode.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.